All right. All right, welcome everybody to episode 58 of the Navigating Now virtual roundtable series. I am Anthony Ewing, a partner here at Thoughtium, and I am joined by two esteemed colleagues who will introduce themselves here in just a moment. Some familiar faces for those of you who are a part of the Navigating Now community. We are extremely thrilled to join you all today from Thoughtium headquarters here in Chicago. This week also marks a very important and special milestone for the organization. Thoughtium turns 5 this week.
Incredible.
And so I've got Amanda and Norm, both members of the Thoughtium team here today to do a bit of reflection, looking back, sharing of some insights, lessons learned, because we know there have been a lot of them, and also some looking forward as we look up and out at the next 5 years at Thoughtium. So before we get into it, a couple of housekeeping items. As you all know, we go live every Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock. We are thrilled to welcome our community, those folks who tune in via LinkedIn. We love our LinkedIn community. Say hello in comments if you can. We also go live to YouTube and Facebook. You can catch every episode at thoughttium.com/live. And we're happy to take questions throughout as well too. So with that being said, I am going to hand it over to, and I want to introduce Amanda Miller to our community. Amanda comes to us as our chief of staff, but with a wealth of experience in the startup space. She is also the mastermind behind the Navigating Now virtual roundtable and has been for the last several months as we brought just an incredible bevy of new leaders to the table, new folks into the community. And we're just thrilled to have Amanda at the helm of Navigating Now for the next foreseeable future. Yeah. So Amanda, thank you for joining us. I also want to introduce Norm Ralph, of course, a partner here at Thoughtium and also co-founder. Norm and I have been along for the ride for the last 4 years. And this is maybe the second or third time that you've co-hosted one of these,
it is,
Norm.
yeah.
So welcome to the table. I will hand it over to Amanda to get us started for today's show.
Yeah, so we typically use this platform to share stories and perspectives from people in our community. And so in honor of our 5-year anniversary, I thought it'd be fun to spotlight this team, these two, and our story. So that being said, I fielded some questions from our community and our team, which we're going to get to here in a second, but I want to kick this off just how we kick it off every week. I want to take it back. I want to open the session with a tie to your past. So Norm, what was the earliest expression of what you do today?
This is such a good question.
We love asking these questions, and now all of a sudden we're getting.
You're like, oh.
Yeah, it's actually one of those questions too that I've talked to my parents about over the past couple of years, and I feel like as you get older, you just want to gain some perspective of, what were you like as a child, and how does some of those tendencies and behaviors get expressed to what you do today. And for me, really where that started is athletics. And so I was often the kid that was undersized, was maybe the 16th or 17th player on a soccer team, and was just looking for somebody to believe in me and have the confidence in me. And as I started to grow, and I remember in high school, I grew 10 inches in 1 year. And I went from the kid who was the undersized person to, at the center and running the midfield to all of a sudden the captain and the MVP of the team. I always had that undersized mentality. I always had this desire to want to have a diverse team, to have a team where I was looking for the person who had potential. Under my jersey, I wore a t-shirt that said hidden talent. And so for me, my desire to organize people, to look for potential, to consider what's possible, and to have everybody elevate together really started for me with athletics. And so even last night, I had one of my friends, hand me a card and it said hidden talent on it. So I feel like even back in those early days as that undersized kid, when I saw organizing people and managing people and leading people, it wasn't from, this idea of practitionership or being maybe the striker in soccer. Rather, it was that undersized kid who was looking to say, how do I organize the team and really make us elevate and win together as a team of 11?
I love that. Well done.
Hidden talent.
Hidden talent. You still have that t-shirt today?
I don't. I wish I did.
You gotta get it.
Yeah, I feel like that was a mistake on my part to not have that.
I love it. Thanks, Norm.
Yep.
Anthony, what about you?
I love asking this question because I really do believe that at the center of everything that we are passionate about, particularly in work, there's stories of your childhood.
Yeah.
You know, there's a adult learning principle that says that if you ask an adult why more than 4 times, they're going to end up in tears. If you ask them the question why more than 4 times, we will end up in tears, because inevitably it goes back to a story from your childhood, which makes you eventually emotional, right?
Yeah.
You know, for me, you know, I call on my practitionership as a learning and development leader. That's someone who is just intensely focused on the experiences that make us who we are as adults, and particularly as lifelong learners. So I'm all about creating great learning experiences, whether that's in workshops or in my coaching methodology, or even in the way that we're growing and scaling Thoughtium. The childhood experience that I can most early tie back to would be the minivan rides from our home in Schaumburg, Illinois, out to my mother's elementary school in the summers. We would travel with my mom to her school in the summers, and she would bring myself and my 2 sisters along to set up her classrooms in the summers. And that meant, you know, everything from creating different zones in the classroom for different types of activities for the kids. She was a 3rd grade teacher at the time. It meant, of course, plastering the walls with crepe paper and things to do and things to write with. And I just remember very early on being so impressed and almost obsessive about the types of experiences that my mother was ultimately designing for in her classrooms, and the impact that it had on, you know, her students, because I at the time was of that age, and I started to see the thought and the methodology behind even just the way a classroom is set up. So, you know, fast forward how many years later, and I still, anytime I walk into a classroom, whether it be an adult classroom or an early childhood classroom, I am just so enthralled with the physical space and how it affects the learning experience. And I can thank my mom and her our summer trips where my 2 sisters really wanted to go to the pool and I secretly wanted to go to the classroom.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love those. Those are both very true to form to each of you. So that's great. That's great. Cool. So let's get this kicked off. I would love to start with you, Anthony. I want you to take us back 5 years. Thoughtium hasn't been formed yet. We're not here yet. You've got an idea in your head. Walk us through that journey.
Yeah, I mean, we had an opportunity last night where to celebrate 5 years, and we had almost 70 of our friends and family and community members all in one place. And if you told me 5 years ago, when, you know, Thoughtium was a concept, that 5 years flash forward, we would have a room of such meaningful people in our lives. And I mean people in and outside of our work come together, really organized around Thoughtium, and what we're doing and how we're doing it. I would have told you you were nuts, you were crazy.
Yeah.
Because 5 years ago, my intent was to really start something that allowed me individually to go out and express my practitionership as a learning leader, to help startup organizations build and scale through sales training programs and leadership development and coaching. But I also knew, even though I didn't know how we were going to do it, I knew that it was going to be more than just me. So, you know, a lot of us who have entrepreneurial aspirations oftentimes find ourselves taking the first step and going out on our own. We call this the single shingle. And especially if, you know, you've worked for a large organization, sometimes you find what you're really good at and you realize there's a need for it in the marketplace. And I realized there was a huge need to develop learning and development or sales training in these startup organizations. And I knew that I had the skills and the talent and the experience to do it. So 5 years ago, started Thoughtium as a, quote, single shingle, but from day one, I knew that this was going to be more than just myself. And so really focused in on serving 1 or 2 clients in the first year, did a really incredible job. I was living in San Francisco at the time and just knew that I could overserve and over deliver value for, if I could, for 1 or 2 clients, a little bit of word of mouth, and all of a sudden I might have more business to potentially bring more people in. That happened so quickly. In less than a year, you know, the market spoke and said that there's more need for the work that we do and the type of work that we were doing and how we were doing it. And if you notice, even when it was just myself, I was using the term we, and it was a way to manifest. And you know, for those of you who are starting independent practices or businesses, using the term we is one of my all-time favorite tips for anybody who is running a solo business, who has aspirations to grow it. Yes, there's a little bit of fake it till you make it that is, I think, effective in business development conversations, but more so you're manifesting a broader value proposition than what, Anthony Ewing or Norm Ralph can offer. And so, we started to bring on more business within the first year. Again, I really wanted to develop something bigger than just Anthony Ewing Consulting Services. So I named the firm Thoughtium, and I know a lot of people ask, what's behind the name Thoughtium? In a lot of the work that I was doing very early on, I realized that organizations didn't have the time or the space to really put the type of thought into developing strategy, developing training, developing their people that they needed to on a day-to-day basis. And so Thoughtium is the space for thought. IUM the suffix and thought the prefix. Putting those two together, I felt was a great way to express that we are here to create the space for thought. And about a year in, I started to entertain bringing more business on. And about a year in, that's when my discussions started with, at the time, a really good friend, teammate, colleague, brother. I mean, I've called you all the things, but I've never called you co-founder. And we started talking pretty quickly. Things got really exciting very quick. Norm was doing very similar work. And the way he was doing it in other industries was really compelling. And so Norm joined, and that we knew we had the right pieces, two people that really believed in Thoughtium, and both with a vision to bring more people in to this platform. And the rest is really history. I mean, we could go into detail in terms of how we scaled the business over the course of the last 3.5 years, but the origin really was this desire, this passion for me to create the space for people that I know and I trust, and people that I love out in the marketplace, and really the partnership then and the thought leadership that Norm brought to the table and saying, hey, this is how we build it.
That's awesome. I love that. It is so fun to have the privilege to sit alongside of you, because I've never seen two people that complement each other's strengths and weaknesses so well. It's really incredible. Maybe we'll dig a little bit more into that a little bit later, but I'm going to kick it over to Norm here. Let's talk a little bit about our team. How would you describe the Thoughtium team, and what is unique about this group?
Well, as I even mentioned in, what was it as a child that was maybe the expression of me as a practitioner, for me, the team was everything, and it still is everything. And I'm so proud of what we're doing. As I look at the team and, what are maybe some similar characteristics or what are ways that we, have showed up and we've seen our partners look at us and say, wow, that feels different. And we really are seeing some big impact. The first is we often are putting the relationships first. And while that seems like, everybody cares about people and relationships, I mean, it feels very differentiated. So a lot of times in business, it's very easy to get to task. Particularly in large organizations, it's easy to get caught up in some of the politics and some of the slow moving ways that a corporation might be just navigating the way that they do business. And I would say by us leading with authenticity and relationship, it really puts us at a significant advantage in building true partnership. And so I think that's probably the second element, which is people who love to be in partnership. There's a difference between somebody who's really skilled at what they do and somebody who loves to be in partnership. And so when I say in partnership, a lot of times that might look like you're elevating others. You bring your own perspective, but you've got the ability to be able to ebb and flow to really elevate them. So again, you may not have the answers, but you've got the ability to be in like a true partnership to ultimately elevate them. And we love to be growing with our partners. For me, that is just my service orientation just gets fueled by the ability to enable a leader. And I would say lastly is we're true builders and designers. I think you've got to have a builder's mentality. You've got to love some of that process. And the design process, there's a bit of messiness that comes with that. It's not always following a playbook. It's having some creative confidence. It's the ability to play in the clouds and the dirt. And it's to be able to work the process and get really creative and get really excited. So, to me, again, as a builder, I think we all bring our unique strengths into the design process. As you had mentioned, Anthony and I have, very different but complementary strengths. I love to play in the clouds and the dirt, but the way that we play in that dirt and the clouds is a bit different.
Who's more the clouds and who's more the dirt? And does it have anything to do with the way we're sitting today? The way that we're
I did not notice that, but yes.
And who sits right in the middle of
Yeah, that's great.
Who has no choice but to be
I'm
the
very
clouds and the dirt? Yeah.
I love that. It's very symbolic.
Yeah, and I'll just add, like, the team right now is our primary focus, and I think it will be forever. And that's one of the most gratifying things about building a business. It's also one of the most challenging things about building a business is too. I mean, I think we've learned all of our lessons through our journey in building the team, and doing it over the course of the last couple of years has been, I mean, almost unprecedented, in terms of the types of challenges and also just incredible opportunity that have come our way. I mean, we have, completely lifted a lot of our early expectations in terms of bringing people on board. And when I say that, I mean stringent expectations or requirements around where you live geographically, of course, in a virtual first world, the type of experience you bring to the table. We've seen the benefit of bringing people in without core consulting skills, which is maybe something we would have hired 4 or 5 years ago. We've brought people in that are community organizers, storytellers, brand marketers, and we've got a really core solid group of about 10 folks right now that if you put in a room, all of us in a room, there's very little that we wouldn't be able to do with the ability to kind of pool all of our collective talents. So we have folks that are passionate about, obviously all of us are passionate about delivering value to our clients, and we do that through consulting work. We do that through learning and development. We do that through driving strategy. We do that through portfolio management. But at the end of the day, we are all storytellers. We are all connectors. And of course, we love each other enough that we're continuing to invest in each other as individuals, which means we've gotten to know each other in and outside of work, obviously, but we've also been able to support each other's passions outside of the consulting work that we do every day. So we have folks on our team that, by day are really working for Thoughtium and continuing to help build this ship. And by night, they're running businesses of their own. We have folks that, again, come with completely tangential experience that have just added such an amazing dimension. And I think for us as leaders, that's taken us a little bit of time to really understand, the value in bringing such diversity into the group. And it's something that, I hope we continue to lead with in terms of recruiting, for sure.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Well, you answered my question of most unexpected challenge of building a business. So well done. So I'm gonna kick it back over to Norm here. Cool. So appreciate the challenges. Let's talk about your proudest accomplishment so far.
I will say, well, one of those, honestly, and I know it's very near term, was last night. And so there was an expression that happened last night that maybe to even Anthony, your earlier comment about 5 years ago, could you ever imagine? There was this confluence of meaningful relationships and connection that was happening as we had clients and partners and community members, just such a diverse group, but all with real meaningful relationships, all in the same room, all having real conversation and connection that wasn't necessarily structured, wasn't planned, wasn't orchestrated, but was very organic and very just uplifting. Like I looked around and just the oxygen I had from looking over and seeing some unexpected conversations happening and just thinking about outside of the project work, outside of what we're doing, as we really have put a priority on community and connection in those relationships, it just seemed to manifest last night. And so there was just such pride I had in the work that we've been doing where, at times maybe day over day in the project work, that might get lost. But I think, again, the investment and the priority that we've put in our community, in our team, really showed up in spades last night.
Yeah, and I just put up a photo of the group. This is the Thoughtium team. This is a picture from our 5-year anniversary party last night. As Norm mentioned, and I've got a dovetail. I mean, last night was absolutely one of the highest moments of our journey here at Thoughtium.
I would agree.
To not only have such talent to the left and the right of us in terms of our team, but then to be surrounded by so many people that are a part of our work, but also a part of our lives. And the entire night was really focused, yes, of course, celebrating the team, but also continuing to pour into our community. We had local business owners from the West Loop here in Chicago join that we've just been in communion with over the course of the last 2 years through the pandemic. We had clients, we had family members, and it was just another wonderful expression of the way that we do work. It's always through those relationships. And last night was really, really special. And Amanda put it all together. So thank you.
Yeah, it was an honor too, and
Yeah.
it was a blast. I couldn't have hoped for a better outcome. So
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you. Awesome. Anthony, let's get into advice. What is the best and or worst advice for someone who is thinking about starting a company?
Yeah.
I think this is important for our viewership here because we have a lot of people that are maybe starting companies or thinking about starting companies. So I think this is a great audience for this.
Yeah, I would say, some of the best advice that I've gotten as a leader and also just as an individual, all has to do with letting go, to be very real. I think all of us as entrepreneurs, particularly folks like myself who are high drivers, high achievers, and have done a lot of that over the course of their lives. When you think about starting a business, as much as you want to keep open and creative to new ideas and possibilities, you also start to call on those behaviors that made you successful in the past. And oftentimes that means like a firmer grip. That means more details. That means more strength and rigor with what you do every day. And yes, those behaviors and those skills do get you through some of the tough times. We might call that grit. But if there's anything that I've learned over the course of the last 2 years, particularly in building a business, is that letting go is one of the most healthiest things you can do. Letting go of very specific expectations that you have of either yourself or your team in certain aspects. Letting go of very specific road mapping that you did for the success of your organization when overnight our entire world changed, our industry changed, and our company changed. And so this term letting go, I know is something that we're all experiencing and working on. And I just never knew that I would have to so distinctly apply it to the way that I build a business.
Yeah, for sure. Norm, what about you?
Well, I'll say what comes to mind is really surrounding yourself with the support and the partnerships that you need and your willingness to be vulnerable in the times where you're going to have highs and lows. I would say it's really an endurance race at times. And there's, you're in this leg where maybe you're doing 100-mile bike ride on a given day and you're thinking to yourself, there's zero chance I can get on the bike. And what we've been very fortunate is, particularly in the West Loop, we've got what we call our 6-block radius, and we've got tremendous business owners and entrepreneurs who are also in this same journey. And that journey isn't just business, it's life. It's the true integration of just what we're trying to do. You're trying to do things that are bigger than yourself, bigger than your company. And you really need to be surrounded by individuals who are also in it. And so, to me, if I were to recommend one thing, it's to know that as an individual, you've got to be able to lean on others. You've got to be able to lean on your community. And so invest in others that are maybe in that same, journey or that same path, but also others who have those maybe complementary skills in terms of partnership, because you're going to need partners, no question, throughout this journey.
Yeah, and I'm sharing yet another picture from last night. This is a perfect example. Everybody that's in this group that attended the anniversary party last night is part of this 6-block radius that Norm and I have been really calling on over the course of the last 2 years. Ironically, none of these gentlemen are clients of ours.
Nope.
So, and the room was just full of incredible human beings that are such a big part of the growth of Thoughtium in so many ways, but nowhere near connected to our top or our bottom line. Mm-hmm. And that is something that, if you had asked me what's your biggest surprise over the last 5 years, is, how much this company is being built on the back of relationships that are not in contract or in partnership.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you look at guys like Jeremy and James and Nick as part of this group. These are all gentlemen that live and work within 6 blocks of here, that almost every day we're in contact with, that we've held each other accountable to showing up every day, to continue to stay vulnerable, to learn from each other. And without these relationships, Thoughtium would absolutely not exist today.
Amazing. These are killing it.
These pictures are fun.
I know, they're great. They're great. It's like taking me back to last night. Amazing. Norm, I want to kick it back to you.
Okay.
Where have you grown as a leader and practitioner in this space as opposed to a traditional corporate gig?
Yeah, so my background, at least my corporate background, was in technology and financial services. And so very traditional. There was very little room in terms of creativity, culture, even maybe personal development or individual development. And so I've definitely had an opportunity to find what creativity means for me. You know, if you were to ask me 7 or 8 years ago, do you find yourself as creative? The answer would be absolutely not. And so, you know, if you were to ask me today, I would say absolutely. And the way that creativity is expressed, you know, again, I'm like super proud of. So to me, it's the ability to step into my own definition or expression of creativity, to be able to do and move with some fluidity that, you know, again, without the corporate structures or maybe even the expectations of a larger organization, you can make much quicker decisions. We can pivot on a dime. So I'd say that it's really those two things. I think there's a combination of speed, but for me, I would say, you know, there's definitely a creativity aspect that I've been able to tap into, and I've learned a ton just, you know, from working with you, because I've never been able to have access to somebody with, you know, Anthony's level of creativity and talent. And so, you know, at first I was like in awe and maybe a little bit intimidated, like, wow, this is a completely different skill set that I've never seen before. But even hearing him say, like the other day, he looked at something that I put together and he's like, wow, this is really impressive. So even just having some confidence in the work that I'm doing on the creative side, for me, it is something that I could never have been able to experience in my corporate gig.
Yeah, for sure. I +1 on the agility, just being able to make quick decisions and not have to go through layers and layers of hierarchy. That's my favorite thing about being with a small team. We move so much faster. It's great. How about you? Do you remember the question?
Yeah, what was the question?
Where have you grown as both a leader and practitioner in this space as opposed to a traditional gig, corporate gig?
Yeah, you know, I'll answer that. Where am I growing? Because there's a spot of my leadership that I think will always continue to evolve and grow. But the area that I probably needed the most development is in managing people. And I think all of us as people managers, like, just we're continued to be called on to grow and to evolve. I don't think anything could have prepared us as people managers for the last couple of years. And for those of us who are running small teams and small businesses where the impact of even just day-to-day decisions from a business perspective, the impact is so big on a small team of 10 or so folks. You realize that the decisions, the behaviors, the way you show up, it's like magnified in these times. And so I do think it's exposed a lot of our innate strengths. And I see a lot of Norm's strengths show up in times of real great intensity and trial and tribulation. And we've had a bit of that over the course of the last 2 years. And there's absolutely no way that I would have been able to manage that, being the emotional cat that I am. And so, you know, to be able to, you know, much like, you know, Norm calls on my creativity, for me to be able to witness, you know, the way that he is supporting of and just his steadfast nature through such change and such turbulent times. I've learned a ton from Norm as a people leader. I would say I continue to challenge myself to grow in that space. You know, as much as I am the creative and a bit of the visionary for the organization, we all kind of play a million different roles. And one of those roles for me is managing people. And I just feel like there's so much more growth for me. And I want to tie it back to my ability to let go. I think as a people leader and as someone who manages a team, one of the quickest ways that you can get to success is allowing your people to do what they love. And, you know, for someone like myself, who, again, a high achiever, almost a bit of a type A personality, I've really had to challenge myself in certain situations to really just let go and let the people, let the team do what they love. And some of the best work product over the course of the last 2 years have come in completely unplanned space, where a topic or an idea or an opportunity has bubbled up. And all of us, myself and Norm included, just decided to grab on and run with it. And so, you know, I'm learning every day more and more about how to lead within the organization.
For sure.
Let me actually build on that.
Yeah.
So first of all, your commitment to that growth has been, for me, just so rewarding to see, you know, Anthony really stepping in and wanting to elevate, you know, his ability to be able to both lead and influence our team. For me, again, it's been really rewarding to see. One of the challenges that I think both of us struggle in, and anybody who's in a small, like, growing business is going to also experience, is when you're used to being the one who is producing the work and you're in the work, it's that balance between being like the coach and allowing the autonomy and the enablement and still having that, your hand in the work. And so I think for us, like part of the transition that we've continued to like evolve and grow with is how do you step away from, the person who is maybe out in front as the individual contributor, as the project lead, who is truly in the work and had your own expression as to what that work should look like, to allowing somebody else to take their experience and to be able to guide them with your experience, with your skill sets, but maybe allowing them, again, the autonomy to do it or have their own fingerprint in what that looks like. And I think both of us have continued to, at times, really struggle and at times start to succeed in allowing the team, again, to be able to grow into each of their roles.
Yeah. I've run alongside a handful of CEOs, founders, leaders, and I will say the commonality among all of them is that the people management and motivating people the right way and supporting people the right way is the most difficult part. And so, leaning on each other for that is like, it's critical. It's mission critical. For sure.
Can we turn the tables on you a little bit?
Sure. Oh, geez.
Maybe. You knew,
surprise.
You knew we weren't going to go a whole episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, I should have known this was coming.
Without me being
new script,
the facilitator. Yeah. But I, as somebody who joined the organization just months ago, but also somebody who's played the chief of staff role in several different organizations and industries, maybe what's one thing that has surfaced for you as a development opportunity since you've joined Thoughtium? Like what did Thoughtium show you that you were like, ooh, that's something I really want to work on?
That's, I mean, for me personally, you're asking. I've always been, we've talked about this many times. Like I haven't been an out in front chief of staff. So I've always been the chief of staff that's like taken everything to the 10-yard line, and then the CEO presents it, CEO takes it. And I love this opportunity here because you guys don't want me to be the behind the scenes chief of staff. You want me out in front, right? And so, but like I work with all these facilitators. They're incredible at facilitating. I'm like I get a little like freaked out. And so it's a development opportunity for me, and it doesn't freak me out. I can comfortably say I'm not as good as most of you at this, and I know that I'm in the room with people that can support it and help me develop it, and that's really exciting to me because at the end of the day, I think I would rather be out in front with y'all. I just haven't had that opportunity, so it's a really exciting place to be right now for sure.
It's been cool seeing you take that step. It's interesting for someone who plays such an important role. This chief of staff role is just so important in a small organization. I guess we'll also mention our first hire was an operations manager.
Yep.
So in a consulting business where consulting services are what we do and it's what keeps the lights on, our first hire was an operations manager because we knew that we needed to create an operational backbone in order to scale. And as good as Norm is at the operational side of the things, he's got to wear a million hats. That role was so successful that it very quickly evolved into what is now the chief of staff. And in elevating that role from an operations manager to chief of staff, it really challenged Norm and I to sit down and really talk with Amanda about like, what is the difference between an operations person and a chief of staff? And man, have you shown us the difference in so many different ways. And it's been so cool. I think Amanda's just a perfect example of someone who's come on board and has firsthand shown us through demonstrating like, here are the pockets that I'm really, really good at, and I got this. And last night was a perfect example of that. That was so much more than just coordinating an event or a party. I mean, she captured the absolute essence of who we are as an organization and the absolute moment of where we are in time. And that's a gift, but it's also like an incredible role that you play here for Thoughtium. So thank you.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
It's literally that what I texted her last night was that was a moment.
He did.
Yeah, it was.
He did.
Should we show more pictures? No.
Yeah. We will eventually. We'll get the photographer photos back. I'm excited. So awesome. I want to shift. We've been talking about community a lot here. And it's been a really fun surprise the last 12 to 18 months, just how this community has come together. And so we ask our guests often to define community. And I want to put it back on you guys. What does community mean to the both of you?
Yeah, that term for me has evolved over the years and it will continue to evolve, but most recently community are those who you are accountable and those who are accountable to you. And that accountability piece has been an absolute unlock for me in a world where sometimes accountability to someone else is all you have, right? There's been, if you look at it just at a macro trend, there's been a lot of hope lost over the course of the last few years. There's been a lot of challenge both in and outside of the workplace. There's just been a lot of like, energy, if you will. And in those really difficult days, in those days where you may not have the answers or you might not even want to go to work, community for me are those people that I know that I have to physically get up and out and check in with. And to Norm's point, that physically has meant for us, those folks in our surrounding area in this 6-block radius, Norm and I showed up to this WeWork office every day for 18 straight months during the pandemic, and I was accountable to him physically every day. He was the most important part of my community. On my way to work, I checked in with Nick Rodriguez at Train Moment and Jimmy Graziano from JP Graziano's down the street, who are now a part of our community. And it was that accountability that redefined community for me.
Yeah, I love that. What about you, Norm?
Boy, it's pretty well said. Even as he was speaking, I was just in my mind thinking about, for me, it was about the consistency and commitment to those individuals. And so, it's one thing to maybe define community with either a physical location or as part of an organization. When I look at our community, and I think again in this new world, people are defining community differently, whether that's virtual communities or whether that's organizing around maybe specific needs or specific development areas that you have. I love the idea of having potentially more of a blended approach to not having communities be so distinct. I would say in the past, I've looked at, I've had work friends, and then I've had organizations that were around professional development and maybe personal development. And so as I look at last night, it was a perfect, integration of what it means to be in community or in relationship. Mm-hmm. So I'm really interested in this concept of not necessarily looking at like you're building a business or your life is this way and your personal life is this way. But I love the idea of commitment of bringing and building community without necessarily like define borders and expectations of others, but it's like, how do you bring and organize people together that are truly in relationship?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, last night was just like the ultimate display of it, right? Everyone coming together. It was beautiful.
It was.
So, very good. Let's talk about the future. I want to hear from both of you here. How would you describe the future of Thoughtium?
Norm?
Strong to quite strong.
Well, here, let me frame it up a little bit more. What's going to be exciting? What's going to be challenging? This came in from Madison from our team, and I think it's an incredible question. So the future of Thoughtium, what's going to be exciting? What's going to be challenging?
I'll take maybe a page from what you and I were talking about, just in a little bit of a debrief from last night. What I'm excited about is maybe not being so defined by what has gotten us to this point in terms of the 5 years and even just some of our consulting services and our offerings, but really doubling down on the partnerships and relationships that we've built to see like what's possible going forward. So I'm really excited about a little bit of this divergent space of we built some amazing relationships and partnerships, some amazing foundational practices to get us to this point. What I'm excited about is in 2 years to look back and be like, wow, do you remember this inflection point where there was real opportunity to double down on creative partnerships, collaboration spaces, and ways to maybe move from even some of the traditional services we provided year to date and to be able to get really like interesting in terms of true collaboration with others.
For sure.
Yeah. I'll maybe add to that. I think one of the most exciting things for me is, again, you look around last night at 60 to 70 people that are in our community, if you will, and you realize, and it's like a light switch goes off in your head that you realize that we could spend the next 50 years servicing and in community with just that group alone. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes early on in a business, especially when you have a vision of scaling a business, it means more employees, it means for us more clients, more logos, more industries. And it's almost a day-to-day challenge to get yourself out of that mentality and to focus on those relationships that matter most. And it hasn't taken us 5 years, because I think this is at the heart of what we've been doing since day one. But every day we learn more and more and more that this, albeit small community that we have of our clients, of our friends, of our network, is something that we absolutely can build an entire company off of for the next few years. That is the most exciting for me. I think one of the most challenging things for me, and I'm sure that Madison and others on our team can relate, is as a small, high-achieving, very diverse group, we will take on anything. And I think the team has realized that over the course of the last really like even 6 to 8 months as our team has grown and we've brought more diversity in, and we've brought more business and more clients in. They've asked us to come to the table with new ideas or to potentially stretch into other areas of work. And I very seldom hear us say no. And it's a testament to the value that we can bring and the diversity that we can bring. But I also know that there's a good balance between really sticking to your core offerings as a platform to build on and taking on new opportunities. And that is going to be a challenging balance for us as we bring really passionate people in that come with, you know, a variety of different experience. We feel like we can do anything.
Cool.
And we often do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
What about you, real quick? Exciting and challenging?
Oh
Or
man.
either?
I mean, my head always goes to, you know, what I have the most influence over, which is people, right? And so I see this team growing. I see our team just excelling in their own practitionership, bringing on new team members to just fill out more seats and do great work. And so I think that's what's most exciting for me, because that brings exciting and, you know, unforeseen challenges, right?
Yeah.
With every new person you bring on, your culture changes.
Yep.
And so just staying in front of that, being intentional about the environment that you're creating for your team is critical. And it takes intentionality, but that excites me. I love that challenge. So
We love that you're here.
thank you. All right. We're right on time here for a rapid fire.
All right.
Okay.
Great.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a question. Let's always go Norm, then Anthony.
I love
We'll
that.
keep it fast. Okay.
All right.
All right. What are you reading, watching, or listening to?
Definitely podcasts, at scale. Rich Roll. I mean, he's my guy. I feel like he does a great job on long form storytelling. And it's not just, you know, in business or, you know, it feels like they're more life stories or human stories. So definitely Rich Roll.
All right.
I'm going to say this, and I know it is fairly controversial in the business world, but I am going to say this. I am back consuming a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk. And for those of you who don't know Gary V or Gary Vaynerchuk, he's a business leader. He runs a huge social media agency out of New York, but he's written a couple books that were very early on, very influential in terms of the way that Norm and I went about starting Thoughtium. You know, he spent a couple years in a little bit more of the sage on stage place. He was a little bit more of a rah-rah hustle jockey type of a guy. But he's absolutely gotten back to his roots, which means he's playing in these edges of business that feel really loose and really far out there, but he's doing it in service of his community to show what the future will look like, even if 60 or 70% of it is going to be off variance, if you will.
Yeah.
And so one of the topics that he's talking about right now is NFTs. I think everybody's talking about cryptocurrency and NFTs, but he's the first business leader to directly apply it to how it's going to impact business and particularly client services, and how NFT technology can be leveraged and potentially shift the way that we interact with our clients and our community. And for that, I will always tune into Gary Vaynerchuk. I know, again, people have differing opinions on him, but I've learned more from him dabbling in the edges and then kind of making that information our own than I have anybody else. So Gary V is back.
I'm pro Gary V.
Me too.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Awesome.
for
Me
sure.
too.
All right. What do you consider each other's top strength to be?
I already talked about Anthony's creativity. I'll say for me, both what I personally, what I see in terms of Anthony, but also what I've seen in others is his true belief in his ability to bring unique experiences and to really to bring others in. And so those experiences happen, whether that's at a dinner and he's being really thoughtful about in terms of like who's sitting where and you know how the conversations are going to unfold. To even just with our clients, just really, you know, challenging them in terms of, you know, experience design. I just think you do an amazing job of orchestrating tremendous experiences.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say for Norm, you know, we talked about the definition of community. At the heart of community for us is accountability. And I mean, Norm just like breathes accountability. You know, Norm has been more accountable to me than I could ever imagine a single person being, especially someone that I'm not related to. Norm ran 3/4 of a marathon in
I love this
almost
story.
flip-flops and no socks because I was struggling and halfway through an Ironman, and he had no intention on jumping in. he saw that I was struggling and he jumped in and ended up running, 2.5 hours with me nonstop. I mean, that's just the level of accountability that Norm brings. And that's also the level of community and commitment that, he and I have had for each other over the course of the last 5 years through some major highs and some major lows. And for that, again, we absolutely wouldn't be here without it. So
you guys told me that story when we met for the first time, when Norm and I met for the first time.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, we're going to all work together. That's amazing.
Yeah. Let me jump in the same race.
Stand up guy. Let's go. Awesome. What would your walk-up song be?
Anything from Foo Fighters. I love Dave Grohl, so anything Foo Fighters.
All right.
Yeah. I have been known to enjoy the latest Kanye West album. Again, maybe another controversial thought, but I do really appreciate Kanye's process and his artistry, and I like how he plays a little bit in the edges as well too.
Sensing a theme.
Yeah, a little bit. And I know both Norm and I really like Nora En Pure for focus music. She's electronic dance music, and when you just need to put your head down and like really get into some work, he and I put the earphones on. Sometimes we synchronize the song so like we know where it's going. This is what happens when you show up every day for 5 years with somebody. But Nora En Pure, you should definitely check her out.
Awesome.
What are you listening to today, or reading?
This is embarrassing. Dateline constantly.
That's embarrassing.
No, I mean, it's true. I consume way too much true crime. It's like terrifying.
They're on season 30 now, by the way.
It's insane. I
do, because I do. I watch Dateline.
I couldn't even lie my way through that one because that's the truth. But I am a big Brene fan. I think she brings on like super relevant guests right now, just for the time, and she does a great job.
What's her podcast called again?
She has Dare to Lead, and she has Unlocking Us, I think it's called. And I toggle between the two. They're both great.
She also has an interesting virtual book club format that's happening on LinkedIn.
Oh.
So whenever she launches a book, she hosts a virtual book club, and it's as simple as every month she launches a video that tees up the chapter, and you have the opportunity to read the chapter and kind of follow along her commentary, and a lot of the dialogue happens in the text thread. So I think she's doing some amazing things of bringing some of these big topics into the corporate space, which is sometimes difficult to do.
Yeah, definitely. All right, in one word, how do you want people to remember you?
I'm going to use a hyphen. I never can come up with one word. I'll say always there. As Anthony mentioned, I feel like I struggle at times to think about, is it ownership? Is it accountability? At the end of the day, I love when people rely on me and I'm able to show up and able to help them, whether it's quietly or ways that maybe that they can't help themselves. So I think always there, just that reliability and accountability.
Yeah, I would, maybe Amanda would relate. I would also, whenever I'm working on a very important spreadsheet or tracker, the way that I would describe Norm is always there. is always there. Yeah, so there's.
I didn't see that one coming.
I was like, where is he going with this?
I didn't either. I was like, his one word is going to be about spreadsheets and trackers. What is going on here?
There's different levels of always there.
Got it.
What about you, Anthony? How do you want people to remember you?
It's got to be 2 words, but the story. I take a lot of pride in, and like I've just been so honored to be able to tell so many stories. At the heart, I'm a storyteller. I come from a family of storytellers, and the ability to create and tell a story through Thoughtium has been so gratifying. My ability to tell the story of others that have come in and out of our community has also been just like my absolute highest honor. So storyteller.
Like it.
You?
I'd say brave.
Ooh,
brave.
I like that.
If you can take the risk, if you can stand up for what you know is right, I'll go brave all day.
I like that.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, last one. This is a good one. I really like this one. I think someone on our team came up with this one. If you were going to build another company together, what would it be?
I'll let you go first.
We've joked about building a t-shirt company because I
We
feel
say
like
that a lot.
Yeah,
We say that a lot.
There's a lot of one-liners.
I think that's just going to be another revenue stream through Thoughtium.
Yeah. I'll maybe give a more objective, more serious answer. I think there is, what Norm and I enjoy more than anything is the process. And we've enjoyed the process of building Thoughtium. And I think that in our future, if we are lucky, we will have the opportunity to advise others on how to build and scale small client services organizations.
I love that. I could totally see that for you guys.
I'll say that is definitely a high dream of mine is to get to that point. If I was to think about something like Divergent, it would be something that was like an immersive experience that was more about some combination of lifestyle, activity, and growth. It would be, I wouldn't call it necessarily like a retreat or an offsite, but it would be some type of immersive experience where you could really bring somebody to step up and out of their day-to-day, to really challenge them to potentially create a shared experience or growth with each other, and be able to do it in some unique and amazing ways that, again, could be around physical, mental, social, spiritual. I think there's real opportunity there. I'm interested even in my own individual development and unique opportunities for me to grow, both with myself and with others. And so I think that taps into a little bit of me wanting to bring people together to tap into potential, and also with Anthony and his experience.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think I've ever heard that from you, Norm.
Really?
Yeah, I like that.
I like it.
Okay, cool.
I think both of those are real potential.
If you need like a brand or like some marketing on
No, you're building it together. That's the whole.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, wait. All of a sudden, Anthony's building his own business, and
I
I've
got this idea, this
Yeah.
immersive lifestyle.
Amazing.
How about you?
I mean, I think I can help y'all advise other companies because I
Yes,
have a
you
different
could.
vantage point. So I think I would
Yes,
get
you
in on
could.
that business. I literally, in my head, I was like,
I'm in.
I'll join them on
Yeah.
that. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Like you would be the ultimate like chief of all staffers.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like
sure. I would love that.
the train the trainer for chief of staff. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you've
And we've said that before,
yeah,
that
for
could be
sure.
an incredible offering
Yeah.
here. You know, it's a
Yeah.
really critical role
Yeah.
for organizations.
Did we just start a new business?
I think
I think
so.
we did.
Okay, cool.
See you guys
All right.
later.
See you in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, Anthony, Norm, on behalf of the whole Thoughtium team, congratulations on 5 years. We're very proud of you, and we are all very honored to be building alongside of you. And thank you for having me here today to facilitate this conversation.
Enjoyed it.
Of course, yeah, no, and we just want to thank everybody for the love and the support, particularly over the last week or so. You know, we've heard from so many folks that are part of our community, that have reached out, that have congratulated us, that have sent things, cards and flowers and things of that nature. We really have felt the love this week, and it really has given us all a lot of life and inspiration to continue to do what we do and how we do it. So we want to thank also you all, our community. You know, we're coming up on 60 episodes of Navigating Now. I cannot believe that.
It's just amazing.
It really is incredible. This has been such a wonderful yet unexpected platform that has really developed out of really the people here at Thoughtium and the people that make us who we are as a community outside of Thoughtium. So we will continue this for another 5 years. Every Thursday at 3 o'clock. You can find us at thougtium.com/live. Look for us on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Next week, we're going to be back to our regularly scheduled programming. And we have another great leader at the table next week talking about risk versus reward. And this is somebody who has really had to toe that line over the course of a couple big decisions that he's made in his career. So for all of you intrapreneurs, entrepreneurs that are taking the leap or thinking about taking the leap, you want to tune in next Thursday. Seneca Geese is going to be joining us at the table. Can't wait to dive into the discussion with him. And we will have an incredible host of folks that are joining the table all throughout October and November. So from all of us here at Thoughtium to you all, thank you so much. Happy 5-year anniversary, guys.
Happy 5 years.
Congrats.
And let's do it again soon.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
So long.